Hello, welcome to One Pint, One Song. My name's Elliot Porter, and this is the show where I talk to a different songwriter each week about a song that they've written, their influences, the influences behind that song, and the mechanism behind that song and how they wrote it, where they wrote it, etc. And we also chat about artists that they love and specifically one cover that they have chosen, which they have performed, probably in a live setting before. And we chat about, why they love their artist and kind of the influences behind their songwriting. So this is episode 8. Hello to everyone that's joining us on audio. This is a podcast that goes out live on Facebook, live on YouTube, but also as an audio podcast where you can find it on Anchor FM, Spotify, iTunes, around about 2 days later. So by Friday, it should be out as an audio podcast for everyone to listen to. Thank you for supporting the podcast so far. If you'd like to support us even further, subscribe on YouTube at Elliot Porter Music. You'll see it scrolling along the bottom there. So the likes really help. So if anyone's watching on YouTube, click the like button because that kind of gets us more visible and we can get the music out to more people. But please subscribe because then you get a notification when we go live. So wherever you're kind of out and about, you might not remember what time it is, and then the notification shows you, I think, about a few minutes before it goes online. So you can tune in. We're live on Facebook, so please leave your comments. If I see your comments come up on the screen, I will put them on the screen and I will put them to our guest as well if we've got any questions. We normally do it towards the end of the show, just before we kind of talk about the cover. So if you've got any questions, please just chuck them in the comments section and I will read them out for you. If you just want to say hello or happy Easter or anything you want to say. And we're live on Isolation Gigs as well, which is our platform for live shows set up during the lockdown, the pandemic. It's still going strong and we're hoping to carry on with this podcast as well, even after the pandemic is kind of like died down a bit, hopefully. So we'll probably be doing one a week during April and then maybe one a month after that in May, June, July. And then we might take a break in summer, but I'm not really sure yet. So we will see what's going. So please get involved in the show. Put your questions in and subscribe to the channel if you can. Hello to everyone that's joining us, and please look forward to kind of joining us in the future. So today I'm really happy to have one of my favourite acts on the kind of Cambridge scene, a chap who I first saw play probably about 6 or 7 years ago. I don't know exactly when, but I know it was around about the Cambridge kind of area, and it's a fantastic songwriter, a brilliant storyteller, been described by folk words as engrossing and charismatic, and Jeremy Vine of BBC Radio 2 is also a big fan, so you can't do a lot better than that, really, can you? So please welcome today Dan Wilde, who is joining me from his home studio, I believe. Hey Dan, how you doing?
Hello, how's it going? You alright?
I'm pretty good, thanks, man. Yeah, I'm pretty good. Getting
Good.
there during this kind of lockdown thing. We're almost coming out of it now, so I think things are slowly looking up. And you're in the studio, or I imagine you've probably spent quite a bit of time during the lockdown.
Yeah, been doing. Thankfully, I had quite a lot of work that I was sort of in the middle of when the kind of first lockdowns came, and so I had a lot to get on with. And then I've been lucky that bits and bobs have kind of come in, and now because everyone's written lots of songs during lockdown, I'm busy again. So yeah, it's good.
Yeah, that's something that I always forget, that the lockdown has been a period of kind of activity for writers. Myself, I've kind of written in bits. I've written a few things during the lockdown, but I wouldn't say I've been particularly prolific, because I think probably I do kind of rely a little bit on the kind of movement around and kind of going places to get my inspiration. How about yourself? Have you found it? You've obviously been very busy, so has it been possible to do any stuff?
I've done I've caught up a little bit on some recording of songs that I've been meaning to record for a while. I haven't done an awful lot of writing. I've been busy with various things, including like home DIY and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And recording other people's music and recording little bits of my own. I'd probably written like a couple of songs. I mean, not probably. I definitely have written a couple of songs that will probably go on the next release, whenever I can get around to getting that ready. But,
yeah, I mean that ties in quite well. We've got a question already actually from Phil Wilde. When is Dan's next CD due out?
Oh dear.
Anon.
Okay, I don't know.
I'm guessing that's probably a relation of some
It
kind.
is, yeah.
And a good friend of mine, Stephen McLaughlin, who I think you also know.
Oh yeah.
He's this great artist and producer. So hello.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah.
Hello, Stephen.
And Stephen is also a great artist and producer. So
I would wholeheartedly agree. Yeah, I've actually started working with Stephen in the last year
cool.
or so.
Nice.
Actually, I've worked with him before on a couple of tracks, and then the lockdown kind of we came together on a couple more tracks. So
yeah, great, cool.
That's been a good experience. So
and is any of that out now, or it's coming out, or?
Yes, we did a kind of a charity single for the NHS around about this time last year, and that was a cover of the Frank Turner song "Be More Kind," and it was a kind of a big collaborative kind of effort with about 18 other artists as well. And then more recently, I've done one track which I wrote during lockdown, which hopefully is going to be released at some point probably in the next couple of months. At some point, so
nice.
That will be available soon, hopefully. Yeah. So yes,
great. Look forward to hearing it.
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I've been a big fan of your music and your songwriting because it's just it's so kind of it hits the point for me really really well. And I think I met you probably around about 6 or 7 years ago, and we were trying to remember earlier. It was somewhere around Bishop Stortford area, so it may have been the Half Moon, one of the venues around there. And
I think it probably was. I can't think of many other places that I've played. What are some of the other venues?
Well, there isn't really any.
There aren't any. Okay, well then it probably was there. Yeah.
Yeah.
But that is a good venue. If you're only going to have one, that's a good one, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I always love playing there, and it's a great audience. It's kind of like a folk club audience, really.
Yeah.
And I imagine you've played quite a few of those kind of folk clubs in your time.
Yeah.
And it's always a really appreciative audience. But I remember watching, I think it must have been one of your sets around about the time of the album that came out in what was probably about 2013, and I really got into some of those songs on there. And what struck me, I think, and I may not have got the song right, but I think you were talking about moving from Blackpool to Cambridge.
Right.
Around about that time.
Yeah.
How did that move come about?
No, you're right. It's just time flies, isn't it? So I was thinking, no, it was way before that, but then now I think about it, actually, 2013, that's like 8 years ago, so yeah. So, well, I moved to Cambridge originally, it was with an ex-girlfriend. That's that story, and that didn't quite go as planned, but decided to stay. I liked it, I just enjoyed being in Cambridge, so stayed here.
And did you find that the Cambridge area, did you find that was a good place to suit your music? Obviously, Cambridge is rich in kind of history with colleges and stuff, but the Cambridge Folk Festival is what springs to mind when it comes to music for me. And there's a lot of cool little venues. So did you find it was a good place to let your music thrive?
Yeah, it took a little while. I think to begin with, I mean, I'm from, like you say, I'm from Blackpool, or I grew up there,
Mm.
and there's a lot of music going on there, and there's a lot of pubs that have music, and they all kind of pay the artist quite well and everything. So
Yeah.
when I first moved to Cambridge, I was kind of looking for those kinds of gigs, regular gigs that paid a little bit.
Yeah.
And I struggled to find them, and initially sort of thought, oh, maybe this is not the best place for a singer, to do what I want to do. But I think a combination of more places having live music and me getting to know the area a bit more and finding venues meant that it's a pretty good place to. There's a good solid music scene around here, so
Yeah.
it's good.
Yeah. Yeah. What's your kind of favourite venue to play around Cambridge area?
I like the. I mean, I like the Junction, and
Mm.
the Portland Arms is another one. I like the
Yeah.
Portland because it's got that kind of more sort of. It's a smaller venue, but it's still a good kind of proper venue. Um, and then I like playing like the Flying Pig, which is a pub gig, but it's a
Mm.
really cool pub gig, and always like a good crowd in there. So um, yeah, I'd say like if I'm gonna book a show, it's gonna be probably like the Portland.
Yeah.
But then doing sort of the odd gig in like the Flying Pig, and there's also a few like cafes around. There's the Locker on King Street. There's also Dairies, which is where I run the open mic. That's also on King Street.
Ah, yeah, yeah. I've been along to that a couple of times. Yeah, it's a cool. I like that place actually. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's got a good atmosphere in there. It's
Mm.
nice.
Yeah, it has, and yeah, I agree about the Portland Arms. If ever I do a gig in Cambridge, I
Mm.
quite often play there, and yeah, it's always a great gig actually. It's a really good atmosphere. They got a good stage and good sound
Yeah,
system and
yeah,
stuff, and
yeah.
yeah, it always sounds good. And I quite like CB2 as well, the basement kind of
Mm-hmm.
venue.
Yeah.
Haven't done it for a while, but I love the kind of well, you can kind of just pretty much play unplugged in there because it's so
Mm.
small.
Yeah.
And
It's no longer CB2 though. It's
oh
changed
really?
now, and
Yeah.
it's called. I'm going to get it wrong, so I'm not going to say it. But it's
Yeah.
changed. It's changed its name, and it's changed its owners. I think it's now a vegan cafe,
Oh, okay.
but
Yeah.
I think they're still going to have music on. So
That's
hopefully,
good.
fingers
That's
crossed,
good.
they will.
Oh, cool. Yeah, yeah. It must have been a while since I've been in Cambridge actually. So yeah, but yeah, I always loved playing that venue, and it was always quite a good night. So yeah, so why don't we kind of go into that kind of into the song that we were going to talk about, basically,
Yeah, sure.
and then we'll talk about bits and pieces in between, and we'll get a
Uh-huh.
few people's comments and stuff, and we will play the song at some point. So this is kind of I guess it's a song which is it's from the second album I believe.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I suppose it's around about the time that I first heard you play, and it's a song that I really, really loved because I kind of identified with the lyrical content of it. Plus, your style is very similar to a lot of the things that I like when it comes to artists. And I don't know how you would kind of describe your sound, but there's certain elements to me anyway. Of I know I saw on the website Damien Rice has mentioned David Gray,
Sure.
definitely artists that I influenced me as well. But I picked out a few others that I thought maybe it's hard to talk to a singer songwriter without mentioning Bob Dylan. So I've
Mm-hmm.
mentioned Bob Dylan a bit. James Taylor, I thought there was elements of
Okay.
James Taylor in the kind of guitar, and also I don't know. Do you know a guy called Stephen Fretwell?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I can't say I've ever like listened that much to Stephen Fretwell.
Mm,
Also, with the Damien Rice and the David Gray thing, that was more of a like my old label kind of
Oh, okay, yeah.
put that in there, and it's not really something that I listen to an awful lot. But yeah, I mean, Dylan is a big one for me.
Yeah.
There's a lot of the kind of the big kind of classic singer songwriters, Dylan and Neil Young, and I just booked some tickets to go and see Van Morrison at Audley End.
Oh, yeah,
which
yeah.
will be a cool gig with the Waterboys.
Awesome.
Another
Yeah.
one of my favourites. So yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of those kind of classic kind of singer songwriters, and then we were talking, before we came on air about Ryan Adams and Doors, and yeah, often the stuff that I listen to has somewhat of a kind of classic kind of songwriter sort of vibe to it.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
sounds
yeah.
really, it's not very good description, but
Yeah, no, I would say so. And we've got a few more comments here. Stephen says City Walls is a great album. City Walls, was that the album before that one?
that was the one afterwards. Yeah, it's
Afterwards, yeah.
Rhythm on the City Wall.
Rhythm on the City Wall.
Full title, and that was the one that I did in Russia.
Yes.
And yeah, that's the most recent one. Although it is 2016, I think, so it's been a while. I am definitely due another album. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, we will talk about. We'll briefly mention Russia as well, because I think that's quite an interesting story. But we'll stick on this one for now. And also, here we go. Stephen says CB2 was a great night during my student days with the venue in the basement. Yeah, I agree with that as well. It was a great one, but I really like all the songs on this album, so it was quite hard when I was talking to you about it to choose one that to mention to maybe talk about.
Sure.
But I'm glad you agreed about talking about this one, because there was a few others which could also as equally have been easy to talk about. But tell us a little bit about what was behind this song, I'll Never Win.
So it's basically the song is about being with someone who has troubles in their life, things that they're sort of guarded in terms of, they don't want to talk about them. They've kind of put up some barriers and walls and things, and it's about sort of saying, I'm here and I want to help you and talk about it. If you just only, let me in and talk to me about it. So that's kind of basically what the song is about in a nutshell. Yeah.
I
is
think
that what you thought it was about? Yeah.
It pretty much, yeah. And I'm glad it is, actually, because I've always identified with it like that. And I remember very vividly when I heard it live. It must have been a situation that I was experiencing at the time, because it's one of those kind of like, when you hear a songwriter and a singer who just kind of like hits the mark with what you're thinking about at the time, and that song in particular did. And I was like, oh God, yeah, that really does hit the mark. And I feel that, but really, really feel that. And I do like that, actually, because it's kind of like it's a good message saying, I want to help kind of thing. And but then there's that, that classic kind of frustration and that the kind of meeting point of you're not quite able to kind of thing. And I think that makes for a really good song, because it's got that kind of how would you call it, kind of conflict in it.
Sure.
And I really like that about it. And was it a song that took a long time to write, or was it one that kind of flowed quite quickly?
I think that second album, I went through a lot of things around that time, changes in my life. I mean, I told you about moving to Cambridge for an ex-girlfriend, and that didn't work out. And then there were lots of changes and lots going on, and I was writing a lot at the time. So, obviously the memory of it sort of gets a little bit hazy, but I think most of that record came out pretty quick in terms of the writing. The recording was a different thing, but the songs were all written pretty quickly, I think.
And was this record recorded with Dave Gerard as well, or was it?
So this record was. So I went out to Ireland to record it,
Cool. Yeah.
and it kind of some elements of it went well, and some elements didn't go quite as I wanted them to, and we kind of got half of it done on the first trip, and I was due to go out and finish it on the second trip, and a combination of my kind of living circumstances changing, and so money and financial kind of strains and stuff like that meant that I didn't go back to Ireland to finish it, and instead I finished it with Dave, and I also Stephen McLachlan played drums, and which he recorded remotely, I think, or I went there, I don't remember. So it was kind of like some of it was recorded in Ireland, some of it was recorded with Steve, like the drums were recorded with Steve. Some of it was recorded with Dave, and I think some of it I recorded as well. So it was a real kind of mashup of,
collaborative,
but in a good way,
Yeah. And was that when Dave had his studio up near Bishop's Stortford? Was that in Manchester?
When he had like the home studio,
that's actually where I first recorded with Dave. My second EP was in that studio. Then it was a similar experience actually. Then we moved somewhere else, and the whole thing was recorded in about 3 different locations. So I know that feeling quite well. But in some ways I quite like that, because it sometimes gives the album a little bit of a journey, I think.
Sure.
Naturally, which is good. So I think we should probably have a listen to the song. We'll chat a little bit more about it afterwards as well. So for anyone listening on audio, you'll be able to hear the song. And for anyone watching, we've got a nice video which Dan has recorded live. So I will share that. We'll disappear for a couple of minutes while sit in the background and let everyone enjoy the song.
Okay.
Well, I don't know much about you, you don't tell me anything. I've been knocking at your window, but you still won't let me in. And I'll admit, I quite enjoy the mystery you're shrouded in. But I'm growing cold, and I know not of your sorrow or the distance that you've come, of your preferred destination or the things you're running from. But if you're looking for another to confide in, I'm the one outside your door. How long are you gonna keep me waiting? When you gonna let me in? How long? If we keep playing by your rules, I'll never win. And it's not hard to sense you're troubled, there's a sadness in your eyes. Every time they start to wonder, that's you trying to disguise. But I'm just waiting for the day you finally come to realize that I'm on your side. 'Cause it won't do you any good to keep it all locked up inside. If your history's too heavy, you should leave it all behind. You know it's nothing but a story weighing heavy on your mind, and it's no more real than that. How long are you gonna keep me waiting? When you gonna let me in? How long? If we keep playing by your rules, I'll never win.
Man, that's such a nice song.
Thank you.
It reminded me of seeing it live, and I think it's been a while since I've seen you play live, but yeah. So I've there's a few things which I pick out from songs whenever I listen to them, but I love how the melody works right at the start over the descending guitar chords or notes. I think that's beautiful, and also really love I think there's some seventh chords in there as well, which I'm a massive fan of. I always seem to make use of the seventh chords where I can, but I think you use them really. You use them where they should come in, like as the music's kind of peaking, and they make a difference basically.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Which I really like.
Yeah, the second chord is a B7, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, man. And we've got
Which
some
is,
good.
Yeah, it's like the third chord of the key, but it's instead of minor, it's a seventh.
Okay. Yeah. That's interesting, actually. Yeah.
Like a dominant seventh, as opposed to a minor seventh.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it works beautifully well. And one thing that always strikes me is the storytelling element of your music. Having seen the live shows, I know that you sometimes tell quite real stories between the songs.
Okay. Yeah.
Which I really like, and I think they help set up some of the songs for the listener, and they make it memorable, because I always remember some stories that you told. I think there's one song you told a story about going into a bar, seeing a guy, talking to a guy in a bar.
Sure. Yeah.
And forgive me, I can't remember the name of the song, but
yeah, that's Want What You Get. The song.
Yeah, that's it. And it really stuck with me, yeah, because I could kind of then I can kind of imagine it through the lyrics, and I think the lyrics are very, very to the point with a lot of these songs, which is great. And I just think they make a real impact on the listener. There's one which there's a few lines actually I really enjoyed. I enjoy the mystery you're shrouded in. Really comes out of that for me, because I feel like it's something in a relationship or whatever, or or a love interest, where you almost need that mystery, but it's that mystery sometimes you're fighting against. And that kind of really summed it up well for me, that lyric, I think.
Sure. Yeah. That is kind of what it is. It's like that's what attracted me to that person, but now I'm finding it annoying, like frustrating.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah, and I think I can definitely identify with that, and I think a lot of people do. And one of the most poetic lyrics, and also I think it's an important lyric as well, because it's almost a message. It's almost a message of help. Like, it's like a helpful thing to say to someone, I think, but it's worded so well. It's like, and forgive me if I get it slightly wrong, because I just scribbled it down there. But
if you won't recognise it anyway.
Yeah, it's always hard, isn't it, to remember lyrics anyway at the best of times. But I think if your history's too heavy, you should leave it all behind, and then it goes on to say something like it's a story weighing on your mind, and nothing like more than that. And I think that's really important as well, because I think life is hard, but so many people do get weighed down by things that have happened to them in the past, and sometimes it can be played out in future or present relationships, And it can sometimes not be anything to do with the particular person that's involved, but all those scars, they come to bear at some point, don't they? I suppose.
Yeah, so I guess it's about sort of saying, or like wishing that somebody could let the past go a little bit. Obviously,
Yeah.
it's so much easier to just say that, like, oh, it's just, it's a story, like, in your head, like, forget about it, like,
Yeah.
and it's so much harder to actually, do that. But
Yeah.
yeah, I suppose that is. And I was kind of reading and listening to a lot of stuff that was hinting at that, or explicitly saying that your past is your past and your future you don't know, and like now is the time to kind of live your life,
Yeah.
that sort of stuff. So it kind of came through into that song and a few others on the album.
Yeah. Yeah. And lyrically, I think lyrically the album's brilliant, and that's something that always interests me. But do you write lyrics? Are you constantly writing lyrics, or do you write lyrics that merge with music that you've written or writing at the time? Is it an ongoing process kind of thing?
It's a little bit of a combination of. I'd say most of the songs come from like some kind of musical idea, could be a chord progression or some kind of little riff or something, and then just kind of singing random things over it until something kind of go, and you kind of go, oh, that's kind of nice, and it might be a word or a whole phrase. And I always sort of say it's a bit like kind of finding one piece of a jigsaw puzzle and kind of going, I like that. Yeah. What's it going to be? Like, what's the picture going to be? What story is that a part of?
Yeah.
So I'd say that's more often than not, that's the case. And then sometimes I'll like think, wouldn't this be a great like idea for a song, like a concept for a song? So there's a song on that album called "Abusing My Position," and that was a phrase. And I was like, I could write a whole song about different people who are abusing their power or abusing their position. And then, so that was more of a, like, I thought of an idea, a concept, and then I like went to work on it and tried to, and that was like lyrics first. And then I kind of came up with the music.
Yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't say I'm writing lyrics, all the time. I wish I was one of these people that like had a notepad and carried it everywhere with me. And I guess now you just do it on your phone. Find sometimes when I'm driving that I have ideas for lyrics, then it's difficult to write them down.
Yeah.
You certainly shouldn't. So you try and remember them. I've been writing songs recently with a friend. We've been writing for DJs.
Oh, okay.
Which has been quite fun.
Wow.
We're trying to make them good, obviously, because we want people to use them.
Yeah.
But it's totally different when you're writing and you know that you're not going to have to sing them. That's a totally different thing.
Yeah.
And they're less personal, and it's quite fun.
Yeah, and have you found that it's a completely, because I've started doing some co-writing with some artists who are completely out of my normal genre.
Yeah.
Just for a bit of a challenge, and also because I thought I'd find it fun. But yeah, I've found that it's like it's trying to think with someone else's mind when you're either writing the lyrics or maybe helping with the lyrics, and it's trying to find their voice rather than my voice. And I absolutely understand what you mean there. And I guess as well with DJ music as well, is that kind of the lyrics have to be quite tapered down to kind of
you certainly couldn't write a song about like, you can't get too deep, I don't think.
Yeah.
Well, that's maybe not fair. You can, but it has to be in a way that people can dance to it, obviously.
Yeah.
So it's about trying to come up with like little hooks, and sometimes even like we wrote this song recently, and what we wanted to try and do was so this was with a friend of mine, Will Robert, his name.
Oh, I know Will. Yeah.
So
Great guy,
he
yeah.
does a lot of that now, and he's got another kind of pseudonym which is Will Matter, which is like his more kind
Okay.
of pop and like dance music kind of artist name. And we had the idea, or I think like his manager said, why don't you try and write a song with like a vocalization as the hook, as opposed to like a lyric line. So we were thinking about how we could do that, and the idea ended up being that like the first verse is like somebody driving along in a car, and then they switch the channel on the radio, and they hear the end of a song, and they didn't catch the rest of the song. They just hear the end, and they don't know what the song's called, but the bass line goes, and then that's where the kind of vocalization comes in with this like ba-da-yi, ba-da-yum, ba-da-ba-yum, like this kind of like so that's the kind of thing that I would never do like with my own stuff, but it was quite a fun little project to work on.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And will you ever incorporate anything like that into any future writing kind of things? Or?
I don't know. That kind of thing I think will probably stay for that sort of side of the writing as opposed to my own stuff. But certainly working with people, like producing other people, gives me loads of ideas for my own stuff, which is cool.
Yeah, because I was actually, that leads us on quite nicely, because you mentioned a little bit earlier, and we've talked about it before, about moving to Russia, and that must have been a very interesting experience. And you mentioned to me before that you actually started doing your own recording just on a two input interface when you were out there. And well, first of all, how did you end up moving to Russia? That's an interesting place to live for a while.
Yeah, so that was my wife is Russian, so after we got married, we needed to like sort out visa stuff, and so we went there for a while, for 6 months basically. We didn't know it was going to be 6 months, but we thought it would be a short time while we got everything sorted for the visa, and then we came back. But 6 months was kind of a nice amount of time to like really get into living there and sort of get used to it a little bit and experience the culture. So yeah, it was there were some elements of it that were like real culture shock, and sometimes I did feel like a bit of an alien, like a bit of a strange person. And the region that we went to as well, it's like in it's called Bashkortostan. It's just above Kazakhstan. It's kind of like in the south of Russia, and people there, they don't really see many tourists. Like people don't go there for tourism, and often people were saying things like, "Oh, you're the first like European that I've seen like in real life," and things like So it was like quite weird to be that guy.
Yeah.
Like representing Europe.
Yeah. And was it winter time, or was it extremely cold, or was it?
It was winter time when I got there. I kind of went there just before New Year's Eve. I think, in fact, I think we went on New Year's Eve. My first night out was like New Year's Eve.
Yeah.
Which was really fun. And so yeah, really cold, like -40, and snowing all the time. And then there was spring is like 2 or 3 weeks of rain, and then it gets really hot. So I experienced a bit of winter and summer.
Yeah. And it's somewhere I've always been interested in going. Would you recommend it for a short trip, for a short while?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I've been to Ufa, which is the town that I lived in, and Moscow. And I'd say if you're going to go to one place in Russia, you might want to go to like Moscow or St. Petersburg.
Yeah.
But then there's it's definitely worth exploring other cities to get like a sense of. I don't want to say the real Russia, because like there'll be people in Moscow going like, this is the real, but it's different. It's definitely different. It's less European.
Yeah, yeah.
And it feels like a very different culture.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. No, I can imagine. And with the recording, so was that when you first started to kind of think, obviously you're in Russia, probably not close to any studios in the UK you could get into. Was that an inspiration behind, let's start recording some stuff on my own kind of thing?
Yeah, I've always sort of recorded. Since when I was back at school, I had I remember having like a tape, 4-track tape machine, Tascam thing,
Cool. Yeah.
which was fun. And then I got like a digital 8-track, and it was like all of a sudden I had like this drum machine and 8 tracks, and so I've always done a little bit of recording and done bits of like pre-production on previous albums and things and demos and all that sort of stuff. But when I went to Russia, I was wanting to make an album, and I knew that I thought that I wasn't going to make it there. So I wanted to demo all the songs, and then I thought when I get back to England, I'll be in a position to just go into a studio straight away and just do it.
Yeah.
But then the demos that I was doing, I was kind of sending. There was a few people I was sending them to, and they were just saying, "Well, you should just, release it as it is." So I ended up sort of being persuaded to do that, and so yeah, that was like the first thing that I like produced, kind of start to finish, and actually released.
Yeah. And was there lyrical inspiration being out in Russia for a while, or was it?
I'd written most of the songs before I went. I'm just trying to think if there were any that. I think because I was recording a whole bunch of songs that I'd already written, I didn't write much while I was there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't say that I can even think of a single song that I wrote about being there.
Yeah.
But,
no, that's cool.
These things, I think, all these things kind of inspire you, don't they? Anyway.
Yeah.
Whether you know it or not, and whether it's conscious or not, they kind of work their way into your life experiences and how you see the world and everything. So.
Absolutely, yeah. And sometimes it's stuff that's happened a couple of years ago that seeps into your consciousness. Yeah, like you say, and then somehow a song can come out at some point.
Yeah.
You never know. But we mentioned a little bit earlier about influences, and then we were talking a little bit before about Doors, and
Yeah.
this is a band and an artist that I've really got into in the last couple of years, because I think the main guy, again, who I can't remember his name,
It's, Taylor Goldsmith. I think.
Taylor Goldsmith, yeah, I think
Is that right?
is probably one of the best writers at this present time, and tell me a bit about how you like Doors and stuff.
Yeah, so I can't remember how. Usually, my wife finds a lot of music for me. She, because I'm always working on music, I'm always listening to music during the day, and she's a photographer. So whenever she's editing photos, she's listening to music. So she discovers all this great music, and then she says, "Oh, listen to this, listen to that." And I remember she said, "Oh, listen to this song. It's by a band called Doors." And I was like, "Oh, The Doors," and she was like, "No, not The Doors." So, and I remember the first time I heard it, I was like, "Oh yeah, it's great," but it really reminds me of Jackson Browne, massively. And so I didn't like go and seek it out and listen to more of it. I was like, "Yeah, it's great, but it really reminds me of that."
Yeah.
And then one day I was driving back from a gig that I'd done, I think in Gloucester, in the car, and I had like Spotify on, and it was on my like playlist kind of shuffle, and a little bit of everything came on, and it really hit me, that song. I was just like, every line in it, every verse, it felt so meaningful, and then I was hooked, and then I was listening to their stuff constantly, and I went to see them last year, just before. I think that was probably the last kind of big gig that I went to.
Oh wow, yeah.
In Manchester, and yeah, just love that band. Yeah, great. The arrangements, the lyrics, the songwriting, and they rock. You know, like when you see them live, they really rock. And big like guitar solos and everything. So they're a great live band, and they also make great records. So.
Yeah, I agree. I'd love to see them live. I haven't yet been able to do that, but yeah, lyrically, kind of. When I listened to them, I was like, it kind of, they're the kind of act that makes you want to up your game a bit for me. I was like, I listened to their lyrics and I was like, exactly as you describe, I was like, wow, every line is kind of like amazing. And I've always been massively into lyrics, but probably guilty in many ways of having some good lines and then throwing in the odd line, which I think, oh, that'll kind of work. That'll kind of do, but for me, the Doors, they just don't seem to do that. Every single line seems to have a point and it hits hard. It's amazing.
Yeah, I read an interview with him where he was saying that he always felt like he was like an oversharer in songs, and he would listen to other artists who were like more vague and they'd be a bit poetic, but you might listen to the song and think, I don't really know what it's about.
Yeah. And
he was saying that he was kind of looking at those songwriters and thinking, oh, I should be more like that. I should be more like vague and poetic and, you know, not overshare my, you know, experiences. And then he sort of concludes by saying that he realized that that wasn't him and that wasn't his thing. And that his thing was to just tell people exactly how he feels about stuff.
Yeah.
And when I read that, I was kind of like, yeah, I've always felt like that too, that there are other songwriters who I look to and think, oh, that song's great. I don't know what it's about, but it's great. I'm sure it means something. Yeah. Whereas my songs, I think if people listen to them, they kind of know what it's about. They know what it means. And in the past, I've kind of thought, oh, you know, does that make me less of a like artist? And, you know, but after reading that, I was like, yeah, that's who I am. And that's kind of how I write, and that's fine.
Yeah. And I think it's great. Because like every line has an impact and your music definitely does that. And, I can feel the story when I'm listening to it, and exactly the same with Doors. And yeah, it's very interesting to hear that he thought like that as well, because when you look at it on the surface, you just go, wow, lyrical genius, really.
Yeah, no, he's amazing. And like say, when I read that, it was kind of like, it was almost like a bit of a relief, like, oh wow, he felt like that, you know, and he's like somebody I really think is amazing.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, you know, you just have to kind of embrace the way that you write naturally and not try and force, you know, something else.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that I've got a couple of my kind of stock questions. I mean, I'd love to talk about influences forever, really, but it's always interesting. But I guess that might be for another time. But so yeah, my kind of questions that I ask everyone, really. Are you kind of an evening or a morning writer, or do you write during the day, or is it just kind of spontaneous whenever it takes you?
I'd say more in the evening, yeah, but not necessarily. You know, just whenever I kind of get the time or feel inspired to write.
Yeah. No. And if you were talking about doing some co-writing and stuff, but if you could co-write with anyone in the world, who do you think you would?
Well, I'd probably write with Taylor.
Yeah.
From Doors, as we've just been talking about, and I think that would be cool.
I think that would be a very, very good collaboration. Actually, I think I could see
let
that.
him know.
Yeah.
If you're watching this, let him know, and maybe we can make it happen.
Yeah. I'll use my contacts to get it over there to him. Don't worry.
Maybe
about
the three of us, you know. Like,
yeah, man. Yeah.
Maybe he'd say no to me, but if we put it to him that, you know, you're not just getting one, you're getting like both of us, then he might go for it.
two British kind of
Yeah.
songwriters. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, why not? But yeah, no.
How
That'd
about you?
be
Would
cool.
that be the same for you, or you?
Well, interestingly, I'm a massive Damien Rice fan, so
Right. Okay.
I'd probably like to write something
Yeah,
with
yeah.
him, but also Ryan Adams as well, who
Mm,
we're going to talk about in a minute because that's
sure.
the cover
Yeah.
we've chosen. And yeah, I've always been interested in writing with people like that because I feel like my music it's probably similar to some of their stuff, and the way I write, I suppose, probably connects with them. So
Mm.
yeah, maybe. But then there's loads, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, then you start thinking, oh, but what if I
Yeah,
could write with Dylan? Like,
yeah,
that would be cool. Although it wouldn't be
exactly.
much of a co-write for sure. You'd just be like, yeah, whatever you think.
Yeah. I was watching I've watched a film on Dylan, and I can't remember what it was called, but it was a really cool film. Like they'd taken an old photographer had taken a video of it.
Mm.
I think it was on Netflix or something like that.
Was it a
And
recent one? Is it the one? I think I know the one you mean. It's a little bit
yeah,
mad, isn't it?
it's a little bit mad. It's a little bit all over the place.
Yeah.
And you see all these people that were around Dylan at that time, and you think, wow, there's like a famous actress I never knew was around him then, and loads of people from kind of pop culture. And but yeah, one of the things struck me is one of the guys that was interviewed was like, oh yeah, we were in the studio just doing some stuff, and then Dylan walked in, and then it all changed. And it was like, right, we're doing this now, we're going to play on his song. And yeah, I think he would just be one of those characters that it just changes things, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see a session of his, yeah, for sure.
I don't know if he writes with other people. Don't know if he.
I don't actually know. No, I don't know if he would, to be honest.
But it would be difficult because with a co-write, like it's you know, because you've done some co-writing, and it's not easy, is it? It's like hard to, because you're constantly like treading that line of, you don't want to take over. You want it to be like a co-write, and it depends whose song it is, who's going to sing it. Is it their song or your song, whatever? And it's not easy when you kind of like maybe disagree on where something should go.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can be really tricky to get that balance of like being creative and not stifling things.
Yeah.
And kind of getting stuff done. It's hard.
Yeah, I agree. And when I first started out, I did try co-writing in it, and I really couldn't get the hang of it. Like, I had a couple of sessions with some great people, but they just really didn't work. And I think it's because I wasn't probably kind of ready to do it. And I found it quite hard. More recently, I've definitely had to look at it more objectively. Like you say, like you go into it and think, right, well, how can we make this work, rather than trying to like put an idea on someone and then they try and put an idea on you. And it's difficult. It's difficult to try and think in like you say, if it's someone else's song, to try and think in their head as well, and like how they would sing it or write it. Might not be how I would write it, but then if they're singing it, then they don't want to sing it like I want to sing it.
Exactly.
So, it's a strange but can be beautiful thing. Yeah, for sure. And so yeah, that kind of leads us on quite well. This hour always goes so quickly because I can go off on many tangents and talk about songs forever, really, which is easy to do. But we're going to talk about Ryan Adams because he's someone that I've always been a massive fan of, and definitely took a lot of my songwriting influences from him. And he's one of those writers that always kind of seems to get it right for me. Whenever he brings an album out, I'm like, yep, I like this album. I'm a fan of it. And he seems to have a knack of just hitting the mark again, melodically and lyrically, and it just kind of takes you. it gets me. And the song I think we're going to talk about is called "To Be Without You," which I had to remember which album it's from because he's such a prolific writer. He's got so many albums, but I looked it up and it's from "Prisoner," which I believe was about 3 or 4 years ago, somewhere around then. And I think it was written around about the time of his marriage breakup, or a breakup of a relationship, because a lot of the songs, lead me down that path to think that. But yeah, tell me about this song and why you decided to cover it and why you like Ryan Adams, really.
Yeah. Well, same for me with Ryan Adams. I mean, I discovered him when I was back in college. A friend said, "Oh, listen to this," and it was the album Gold.
Great album.
And yeah, really loved that album. Got into that, and then kind of went back to Heartbreaker, and then sort of just listened to pretty much everything since then. And yeah, to be honest, there was a few songs of his that I was playing, and that was kind of one. With covers, I always kind of, there are songs that I want to play, and I kind of try them out and I do them live, and some of them kind of stick and they stay in the set, and some of them you kind of do and you think, oh, maybe that's not for me, or and that was one that stuck and was in the set for a while. And when you asked me, we need to play a cover, I went on YouTube to see what covers do I have.
Yeah.
And I found that one, and I was like, oh, well, this is, and it's one that I haven't played for a long time. And I listened to it, and I thought, oh, I should play that again. So, it's a great song, as are many of his songs.
Yeah, I love that song, and we will end the show. We'll play the cover basically, and anyone that's watched it before knows we normally try and do that. There's a line in that song which I really love as well. Like, I think he's talking about, obviously, I think his marriage or his relationship is broken up, and it's the little things that I think he's talking about little things that you find around the house that remind you of that person.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there's a line that always gets me every time. It's like that little thread of silver.
Yeah.
I think, maybe on the bedside table or something. And it's those little lyrics which always get me with things like that, because they're so, they could be to some people, they might just be, I don't know what that means, but to me they're kind of so descriptive of a tiny, minute kind of thing, but it could be like such a important thing, because we've all been there, haven't we? You think you're forgetting someone, and then you see something that reminds you of them, kind of thing.
No, it's the detail, isn't it? And that's what kind of makes it personal, and that's what makes it interesting.
Yeah. And do you try and do that in your songs? Kind of put little things of detail in there.
Yeah, I think so. There's definitely. I think sometimes there have been songs that I've written. I'm like, oh, is there too much detail in this?
Yeah.
And sometimes I like the kind of more country style of like just kind of saying something in a really plain way, like the way you would describe it to a friend at a pub or something.
Yeah.
You might not go into such detail, and you might not try and be poetic about stuff.
Yeah.
So there's many different approaches, I suppose, and I try and sort of, I guess with different songs, I kind of feel like, oh yeah, this one I'm gonna be more descriptive about stuff and specific, and describe the scenery and the smells and the tastes and the sounds and all those kind of things. Like bring the senses in, and get them involved, and try and make people feel like they could be there in the song.
Yeah.
And then with other songs, I sort of think, no, I want to make this really kind of like just how I would say it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's an important balance to tread, actually. Yeah, because I when I've been doing songs before, sometimes I've felt like, oh, I'm going a little bit too down the route of, I know what I'm talking about, and it sounds lovely, but does the audience know what I'm talking about enough? And like you say, sometimes, you just kind of just have to, you know, kind of hit them with something quite conversational, or you know, as you find it, kind of thing. And I think that's important to get that balance, and I think your music does that really well.
Thank you, and likewise, by the way.
Thanks,
You've been
man.
giving me all these compliments, but the same. You know, your songs are really great. So
oh, thanks, man.
I've enjoyed listening to your stuff.
That's really cool, and yeah, and hopefully. So what does, very quickly before we kind of go, what does touring hold for you? What does the future hold in terms of post-COVID, I suppose, getting back into gigging and things?
Yeah, I want to make some more music, like record some more music. I'm kind of working on that at the moment, when I can, and I think I want to get some new stuff out, and then I want to tour in that order, because I felt like my because I hadn't got any new songs out, my live stuff, I was getting a bit bored of myself, I suppose, and I just felt like I need something different and more songs and, you know, new stuff. I didn't want to go keep touring the same songs, you know, even though other people might not have heard them. To me, they're kind of old songs. So that's kind of the plan. Record some more, and then when I've got a new thing to put out, then I'll go and do some more gigs. Hopefully we'll be back to playing live soon.
Excellent, and I completely know what you're talking about there. Yeah, sometimes I feel the same. Like, it's sometimes good to take a break, get new songs, and get a new energy behind the set. And I like the way that sets change when you have new albums, because it just brings a new kind of dynamic to the set, and sometimes it's needed. And actually, I'm very much similar, looking forward to doing new material and playing it live again at some point. So let me know whenever. I'll probably look out as well, and if you're playing around Cambridge or you know, London, Bishop Stortford kind of area, I'll pop down and have a view. Yeah, man. Yeah, no, it'd be great. And good luck with all the studio stuff and all the collaborating and stuff that you're doing. And it's good to hear Will was working on stuff. I haven't seen Will for a while, but he's another great songwriter. I'll have to get him on here actually at some point.
Yeah, I'll tell him he said hello, and get in touch with him. I'm sure he'd love to.
Yeah, it'd be really cool. And we're gonna play out with a song that Dan's recorded live, which is a Ryan Adams cover, To Be Without You. And before we go, I just want to say thank you very much to everyone that's been watching today. We are out every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. on Facebook, Isolation Gigs, which is our page specifically for podcasts and live gigs, and also my YouTube page, which you can subscribe to, Elliot Porter Music. Just gives you kind of a notification every time we go live. So if you miss it, don't worry, because you can always watch it back. It's going to be on there, and it'll be as an audio podcast probably on Friday, I think. So Dan, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
It's been really fun, and definitely come back on when you've got new stuff out, and we'll chat about one of those songs as well.
Sure.
It'd be great.
Yeah, cool.
So thanks everyone for watching. I'm going to play out with this beautiful cover of Ryan Adams, and I hope you'll enjoy it, and we'll see you next week.
It's so hard to be without you. Lying in my bed, you are so much to be without. Rattles in my head, that empty drum filled with doubt. And everything you lose will always come find its way out. And every night is lonesome and it's longer than before. And nothing really matters anymore. Nothing really matters anymore. Nothing really matters anymore. And it's so hard to be without you. I used to feel so angry, now I only feel humble. Stinging from the storm inside my ribs where it thunders. There's nothing left to say or really even to wonder. We are like a book and every page is so torn. Nothing really matters anymore. Nothing really matters anymore. Nothing really matters anymore. And it's so hard not to call you. Thunder in my bones out on the street where I first saw you. And everything was new and colorful, it's gotten darker. And every day's a lesson, things were brighter before. Nothing really matters anymore. Nothing really matters anymore. Nothing really matters anymore. And it's so hard to be without you. Every day I find another little thread of silver waiting for me when I wake up someplace on the pillow. And then I see the empty space beside me and remember that I feel empty, I feel tired, I feel warm. And nothing really matters anymore. Nothing really matters anymore. Nothing really matters anymore.